Hi everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about different heuristics to tackle an NP hard problem, which is in phylogenetics. Phylogenetics is basically the study of differing protein structures, and it kind of gives like a good picture of evolutionarily changing genes. And I thought it was a good example for what we're learning about really hard to solve NP problems. So like always, here's a relevant XKCD. Um, so what are exactly are heuristics? So heuristics are shortcuts to finding a solution. Heuristics are not always elegant, but they do favor practicality over comprehensiveness. You won't always be able to try every single solution, but the drawback is sometimes you do sacrifice absolute correctness when you want to get a quick solution. So what are the benefits of heuristics? Well, you can usually find a really close solution to the optimal solution in a reasonable time. Actually, in my example, reasonable means roughly a month or 2 months, but it's actually a really good alternative to the year-long computations that a non-heuristic example would give. So what heuristics allow you to do is you can skip obviously wrong solutions instead of trying every single different solution. You can apply the a really powerful tool is that you can apply these same heuristics to different problems in the same family. So that being, NPR problems, a lot of them you can reduce to a graph coloring problem, which is you'll actually see later in this presentation. So phylogenetics. Phylogenetics is the study of genetic variance between different species, and in this example, it's the variance of different protein structures. So this is kind of like a molecular sequencing topic. So what you're doing is you're finding the probable period of divergence between two species, and you're making trees based on the protein differences. And I'll show you that in a second. But the computer science aspect of this is computational phylogenetics, which uses matrices and trees. And as you can see on the bottom, there's a pretty nice graph. Some implications of this computational phylogenetics is that we can make inferences about past evolution. So we can make nice graphs like we saw in the previous slide, or even more practical to nowadays, we can make more effective drugs and accurate vaccines based on predicting these mutations of different genes. And we can also look at people's existing genomes for similarities. So some challenges, first and foremost, is that there's a seemingly infinite data pool. Protein structure is complicated because it actually has 4 dimensions. There's primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. So these all have to be likened to each other. Another challenge is that there's constantly changing samples. So when we get a new sample, you have to pause the existing simulations. You have to run it with a new data set. Like I said before, this is an NP-hard problem. You can reduce it to a graph coloring problem, but that is not the most optimal way to do it. So how to find the right tree? There's 2 different comparing mechanisms between 2 different trees. So one tree is usually better than the other tree. It would explain the genetic variance better. So each node has neighbors that may have a slight variation between, and farther nodes are more different from each other. So maximum parsimony, it minimizes the amount of steps and levels in the tree, so you can look at different trees, and usually a smaller tree will be more correct than a larger tree. Also, maximum likelihood, you're basically looking at that set of data, and it's kind of like a statistical function that you run the trees through so that you can see whether or not the data that you are simulating could be correct. So really the premise here, here's a tree. If you have 5 different nodes or leaves, you could connect them on a tree, and you can run the 2 different comparison mechanisms on the previous page to see whether or not they have the most similar neighbors. So keep this picture in mind when we're looking at the next slides. So the first method, you can exhaust most of the trees. This is kind of a little bit more of a brute force heuristic, but basically what you're doing is for data sets, you can build trees as you go. These represent the solutions, and the algorithm saves the best tree known so far. One of the positives about this method is you can skip obviously wrong solutions. So for example, if it has a bunch of different levels, you know that's not going to be correct. If you have an unnecessarily large graph, then that's not going to be right. The issue with this is still a really badly implemented algorithm. It's still big O2 to the n. So for small data sets it may work, but for larger data sets it will never work. It takes years and years to finish. For example, if you have, let's just say 7 leaves, you'll be able to make 945 trees out of that. And if each one takes 1 millisecond to solve, that is increasingly expensive. So just for 1,000 leaves, 1,000 nodes, it could end up taking you 3 million years to finish a simulation. So the main method that I wanted to show you guys is called hill climbing. So if you think about the graph in the bottom right, you want to find the local maxima, but even more so, you want to find the absolute maxima. You want to find the optimal graph that satisfies both of the functions that I talked about previously. So maximum parsimony and maximum likelihood. So the algorithm goes like this. You want to start with a random tree, assign it a score, and then you change the tree slightly. And if the new tree has a better score, you keep that one. You keep trying new trees until no neighboring tree has a better score. So you know you're at a local maximum. So think the smaller hill on the graph. And then you return that. So the drawback is you may not always find the global optimum. You will always find a local optimum, but you may never find the best. You will only find a best solution. So some remaining issues that still have to be addressed is that even with these best heuristics that we have, realistic data sets can run for months before even finding a somewhat good solution. Even running the algorithm less than 24 hours, you won't even get a meaningful answer. So since this is not an exhaustive search, you may not know, obviously, if your answer is the best or not. It may be a good answer, but it may never be the best. So I guess to end my presentation, the most important takeaway message is that we need better heuristics. We need better methods of solving these things without actually even getting our data sets better. So yeah, I guess that's it. That's it for today. Thank you for watching.